Hey, welcome into the Stinky Truth Podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day this weekend. I was in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I had the Commanders versus the Raiders, and the Commanders just opened a can of whoop-ass on the Raiders, and we're going to break it all down. I've got my charts, all the things I talked to the coaches about, the players about, and it was pretty dramatic, Mike, in the nation's capital as the Washington Commanders really put it on the Raiders.
Well, we're gonna break it all down and give props to Washington and everything like that. But I got to know, for you, what was the return to DC like? The return to Washington headquarters, where there's the mural of the Hogs with you up there on it. Did you get the hero's welcome? Were there 15 people waiting for you to get out of the car to greet you? What was Mark Schlereth's return to DC like?
It was good. It was actually really good. You know, I got to Sunday morning on the field with Josh Harris, the new owner of Washington. Couldn't have been more gracious. Was so excited about the new stadium. They got the stadium deal passed, so they're currently knocking down RFK, that historic stadium. And I'm telling you, man, you've done a game there. You did the NFC Championship game in 1991, right? You were what were you, a intrepid reporter? What were you?
The young radio reporter, just started out my career, and I was at that game. And I'll never forget the old RFK. The press box was literally swaying. Like, is this normal, people? Is this thing supposed to be swaying like this? Are we having an earthquake? I mean, they don't make stadiums like anymore, where literally you can feel like, this thing looks like feels like it's ready to collapse at any moment. It was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, all those stadiums back in the day, RFK, and you had Three Rivers, and then you had Riverfront Stadium, and you had the Vet in Philadelphia, and they were all kind of cookie cutters. You know, They were all those little 60,000 seat stadiums. And I remember as a player there, man, a couple of memories. Like, you would look up in a blowout or in a really important part of the game, the defense is on the field, and the stands would just be they'd be waving up and down, and you could actually see as the people were stomping and moving. It was incredible. And then, you know, I think back that playoff run in 1991, and I remember a game against the Atlanta Falcons, and you know, I think we beat them 24-7, and it was just a rainstorm the whole time. It was just muddy and just nasty, and we're running the ball on them. And I think, you know, the game is winding down. Maybe we scored, whatever it was, and they had passed out these seat cushions. You can find it on YouTube. They passed out all these seat cushions, and it was like this whole crowd decided when the game was done, we're just chucking them out. And it was like Frisbees, just hundreds and thousands of seat cushions just being launched into, you know, the field of play. And it was just a really cool place. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking to Josh Harris, he had said that during RFK's run as a stadium, Washington was 11-1 in playoff games in RFK. 11-1. And it was just such a cool place to be, and to be able to put it back in the district. And Josh Harris said, hey, listen, man, I think if I remember correctly, I think he said they have 200 acres, and the stadium's going to take about 15 to 17 acres for the stadium. And so they're going to build all kinds of stuff around it. It's just going to be a cathedral, and they're going to have housing, and they're going to have all kinds of different things as part of that stadium project. And, you know, he grew up in DC riding his bike to the stadium on Sundays and then trying to get a ticket, like trying to go in to watch. And so it's a really cool story. Dan Quinn, the head coach of the Commanders, said, you know, you said something to me last year that really resonated with me. And I was like, well, what was that? You know, because I don't say much of anything that resonates with anybody. And he's like, you called this place. He said, when you played here, you said this place was a crown jewel. And he goes, that stuck with me. And, you know, unsolicited, he said, that stuck with me. And we are busting our ass to make everybody proud and to have it be a crown jewel again. So Really, really cool statement by Dan Quinn. Really awesome, just awesome conversation I had with Josh Harris.
So for all the Commander fans out there watching, they saw the broadcast and everything. What were some of the things that, you had on your card there from your conversations that maybe you didn't get to or didn't really become part of the game that you want to bring to Washington fans' attention?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things that that they did, and this is part of coaching. You get into a situation where you look at your players and the guys you have, and you give young guys opportunities, but they changed both their starting guards before the game. And they sat down Brandon Coleman, and he had a knee earlier on in the week, but they sat him down, started Chris Paul, who's a big, strong, 6'4", 330-pound guy. And they also started Andrew Wiley, who was a former tackle. They put him in at guard, and they just absolutely thunder punched the Raiders. And the Raiders have been really good against the run. They dominated the line of scrimmage. And they came into this game going, that's it. We're just like, we are going to physically wear you out. And Dan Quinn talked about the culture and the identity. Man, what we're going to do is we're going to play fast, physical, and downhill. And I know that mistakes are going to be made in September football, but we will not tolerate not playing that style of football. I think one of the other things that was a really interesting kind of focal point is I had talked to Cliff Kingsbury because I'd watched Jaden Daniels in the 2 games he played, not being deadly accurate with the football, missing some throws. And he said part of the age of our football team, everybody talks about the Washington Commanders being the oldest team in football at 28, almost 29 years of age per guy. And they brought in a lot of 30-plus-year-old veterans to be part of this thing. He said, you know what, we probably didn't practice as much as we needed to in the preseason because of the age and managing the age of some of our players. Eckler now is out for the season with a torn Achilles, but, you got Debo is a little bit older. You got some guys, Zach Ertz is an older guy. You've got some guys, McLaurin, who held out or held in. They were worried about him health-wise. So this is one of those things that kind of was a plan, if you will, of how to, manage their football team. And then they got thunder punched a little bit, thunderstruck in Green Bay, and they wanted to get around to kind of rectifying those things.
On the flip side, the Raiders, after some optimism the first week, the way they played, last couple of weeks first of all, my biggest question is, where I'm going with this. Did Pete Carroll remember you when you walked in?
Yeah, Pete Carroll did. Like, Pete Carroll was awesome. He was the same, so energetic, so excited to be back in the league. One of the things that Pete told me about was like, and it's funny because you've heard me talk about this forever. So I said, well, what did you do with your year off? And he goes, I consumed as much football as I possibly could have consumed. He goes, I was at my grandson's games, JV games, and I was at this and I was at that, and I watched everything. And he goes, there's so many little things that I saw, kind of almost forced through the trees type of stuff, that when you're in it, you don't really recognize or you don't really pay as much attention to. And being out of it, I really spent time looking at it.
Yeah.
And he said something as easy as gun runs. And you know where I'm going. He goes, when you're lined up either on the right or on the left of the quarterback, he goes, the ball is going the opposite direction. So if you're lined up on the left of the quarterback, you're running to the right in a mid-zone scheme. And he goes, and it's part of what everybody in the league does. And he goes, I kept looking at it and going, how do I not defend this better? He goes, I'm a defensive guy. How have I not defended this better?
Right.
And he's like, I'm pissed at myself. But he said, there's all these little things that you look at when you're out of it and saying, hey, man, I need to be better at that. I need to be better at that. Now, with that said, Maxx Crosby, I love talking to Maxx Crosby. And Maxx Crosby is one of the best players in the National Football League. And one of the things that's easy that I try to bring out in the broadcast, it's easy to see the effort because he gives unbelievable effort. But it's the preparation. It's eyeballing and studying film on every offensive lineman. What are that guy's tells? When is he pinching? When is he pulling? When is he moving? Like, how does he get in his stance? Does he change his feet? Does he change the pressure on his hand? Does he peek inside when he's pulling? The offensive coordinator, what are his tendencies? When does he take one deep? When does he try to run play action? At what yard line does all of a sudden he take a shot? Like all these things. And you watch him, and he talked about the plays he made in the backfield, the forced fumble against the Chargers, and how all that was based off of film study. And he's the other thing that didn't come out. I didn't get a chance to get it into the broadcast, but he's a rep hog. He is like a quarterback. You know how quarterbacks like Peyton Manning in the day wanted to take every rep? His coaches get pissed at him because he wants every rep. He goes, I want to feel it. I want to see it. I want to feel it. I want to take every rep. He goes, I'm getting in fights with the coaches. They're like, hey, you got to sit this one out. No, I want to feel this one. Yep. And so he's just this big rep hog. But his ability to completely wreck a game, and I mean wreck a game without compiling a statistic. And he blew up, I bet you, close to a dozen plays yesterday. And a lot of those didn't come with a tackle, didn't come with a tackle for loss. It just was, he was the guy that disrupted the whole thing, made the quarterback throw it away, or got the holding call. I think he drew 2 or 3 holding calls, maybe an offsides or 2 as well. Like, that's what that dude does. And he does it on a consistent basis. He was incredible.
Final question. Just having done this game and being around both teams, as you look forward for both these teams, what would be your message to Commander fans, your message to Raider fans about what these teams you think are capable of?
Yeah, the Raiders were disappointing. John Gruden and I were texting after the game. He's like, what happened? And I said, well, they gave up in special teams. They didn't play special teams very well. I mean, the Commanders did an unbelievable job of covering kicks, and they had an explosive kickoff return for 60-plus yards, and they had a punt return for a touchdown for 90-plus yards. So they won the special teams game. Then defensively, their man-to-man coverage was outstanding, and they were able to get multiple sacks, I think 5 or 6 sacks on Geno Smith because their back end was so good, and they were able to couple that with a great pass rush. Daron Payne was in the backfield just disrupting the backfield. Dorrance Armstrong did a great job disrupting things in the backfield. So there's the boss of me running around here picking things up, Mike.
Mrs.
I apologize.
Mrs.
Mrs. S is busy. She's cleaning. She is working. She was like the Washington Commanders defense, just working it. They were just working it. So
Constant.
they were great. And then 202 yards rushing. And when you control the tempo of a game and you control the line of scrimmage like that, you are going to win games. And I tell you, the last thing, Marcus Mariota, what a pleasure it was to watch him play, but to talk to him and say, hey, man, after Tennessee, I was beat up, and the time with the Raiders, like John Gruden brought me out of a dark place and got me rolling again. And then Atlanta wasn't very good. And, I'm sitting there holding my daughter one night and I'm thinking to myself, man, why did I throw that ball? And it's like, I need to be enjoying my daughter. Like he goes, I was just in a bad place, and Philly brought me kind of out of that, even though I didn't play. And this has been great for me, and I'm happy with who I am and where I'm at. And you don't have to. This is just a lesson that you learn about football in general. How many times have we seen a backup quarterback that can't play?
Right.
And how many times have we watched an organization go, let's scrimp here. Let's not pay a guy. Let's just get a guy that we know we just, we're hopeful that he never has to play. And then in Washington, you've got Marcus Mariota, a guy that can operate the exact same offense that you have in place for Jaden Daniels. You don't have to do anything differently. And how important is that? And Marcus came in, and Marcus was lights out. And you go back to last year, he played the majority of 2 games. He came into the third quarter, week 18, and was lights out. And then he came into the first quarter of, I think, week 7 against Tennessee, and it was lights out. Marcus Mariota can operate this offense. And it goes back to his Oregon Heisman Trophy winning days with the guy who was calling plays on the other side of the football field in Chip Kelly. Like, this was a Chip Kelly style of offense, and that's where Marcus Mariota feels so comfortable. And like I said, man, that dude orchestrated. He was awesome.
Final thought on the leftovers here. Did you get a chance to text with Dan Quinn after the game? Is he okay after that fall where he really banged his head? I was worried about that. Then he had the gash. You must have been having a blast with the whole blood dripping down into his goatee. Yeah. I mean, that's football, man. I mean, the players must take one look at that on the film today and be like, that's my coach.
Absolutely. They loved it, every second of it. And good for, that's who Dan Quinn is. Good for Dan Quinn. He talks about the brotherhood, the culture, the brotherhood. He talks about playing with toughness, playing with he took one on the chin. Who was it that ran him over? Debo? I think it might have been Debo, whoever it was. And it was great, man. Blood coming down his nose. No, it was Marcus Mariota. I'm sorry. Yeah. Marcus, who scrambled out and knocked him over, and just incredible. But all 3 phases, man, all 3 phases, they were awesome. They were incredible. And anyhow, by the way, on the Stinking Truth podcast, I also put my camera meeting on the Stinking Truth podcast, where I talked to all the camera guys about what I expected out of this game, and that's also on here as well. So you can go back and check that out as well, because I think you'll enjoy sitting down and talking smack with the cameraman. So anyhow, that's it for the leftovers, Mike. It was great. It was incredible, and the Commanders played an exceptional game, and frankly, the Raiders have a lot of work to do. I thought offensive line wise, they were as bad as I've watched in the league, especially the right side of their offensive line, center, guard, tackle, were as bad as I've watched in the league, and they've got a lot of work to do to get that rectified.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, man. For everybody involved in the Stinking Truth podcast, by the way, one other thing really quick, Ashton Genty. Mm-hmm. Ashton Genty is going to be a damn good player. And, when I hear people say, well, he doesn't have it, or he has, listen, you got to fall in love with 4-yard runs, right? Every meal is not a smorgasbord, right? Every meal you can't break. Every time you run it, you can't break for a 60-yard touchdown.
Right.
And they have got to be a whole hell of a lot better up front. But he made some strides in this game. And one thing Pete Carroll told me that really made me happy was, you cannot win in this league. You can win a game or two, or you can survive for, a half a season throwing the football, but you've got to find balance. You've got to be able to run the ball to take pressure off your defense. You got to be able to run the ball to take pressure off your quarterback and your protection, and take pressure off the offensive line. And if you can't run the ball, you will not win consistently in this league. And so that's where you have to be. All right, man. For everybody involved in the Stinking Truth podcast, I am Mark Schlereth. He is Mike Evans. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. We'll be back with you later on in the week.